Hello, happy stampers. This is Kate with Kate's Paper Creations, and I welcome you to my weekly hashtag simple stamping card video and blog, where I make simply beautiful cards simply made. Beautiful cards simply made. And I have a couple of different things for you today. I usually do a step up, but today will be a little bit different. Maybe. We'll see what you think. The stamp set I'm going to be using, stamps and dies actually to some degree, Encircled in Friendship. Beautiful stamp set. I love this phrase, just a note to let you know that someone thought of you today. And the main reason I bought this set was for these lovely dies. And so this one and this one are the ones I'm going to be using today. Let me show you what we're going to do. I made this card as my hashtag simple stamping card for today. And I'm going to show you how I did it, because I did do it just a little bit I used the Stamparatus. And so let me show you how I used the Stamparatus to make this card. This is the stamp from the set. I'm going to use a standard, it was basic white thick, 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. Let's go ahead and do that, because I'll need that to kind of help guide me. Let me do that. Sometimes I put my score marks on. Sometimes I just fold them and burnish them. And that looks very nice and even. All right. So I'm going to put this in my Stamparatus, because this is a rubber stamp. You don't need the foam mat or anything. It's just the base. And of course the magnets to hold the card in place. You definitely want to keep your magnets apart from each other. They're very, very strong, and if they come together, they might break, and they also might not keep working. Might not be able to get them apart, I should say. So I keep them quite distanced. Now I had this set up from the other day, and what I'm going to do is put my card in here, and I put it up tight against the hinge side, and I just lined it up on a grid mark, and then I'm going to just put a magnet up there. It doesn't need more than one at this point. Then you put your stamp down on where you want it to start, and then close the lid, and it picks it up. So this is where I wanted my stamp to start. Okay, now I'm going to ink them, and I'm going to be inking them with the Memento black. You could do it with that. I am going to be coloring with water-based inks, so I really should use StazOn. So let me get my StazOn black. And because the rule is water-based outline if you're going to color with alcohol pens. Pigment-based or alcohol-based outline if you're going to color with water-based inks. That way they don't smear. Okay, hope that makes sense. The nice thing about this is if I don't get a good stamping, I can always repeat. This one has a mark on it. We'll put that on the back of the card. How's that sound? Now I got to make sure I got it on the right line again. I think that's going to do it. That'll be okay. Okay. We can do that. Okay, now it's straight. And just press it. I will show you one little trick. I bought a dry erase board eraser, and it comes in really handy for pushing down, especially if you've got something near the hinge. So it's just a little accessory that might come in handy for you. And there's number one. Let's move this a little closer. And then what I'm going to do is I have figured out that if I just pull this to the right 3/4 of an inch, they will all line up across the bottom of the card. And so each one of these squares represents 1/4 of an inch. So I will just pull it over 1, 2, 3. Make sure it's straight, that it's lined up with the grid marks. Just like that. And then I'm going to put that like that. And I got to ink it. I hope this is all getting in the screen. And like that. Guess I don't like it popping up. Okay, now I'm going to move it over another 3. 1, 2, 3. Line it up. You've got this line and this line to make sure you're staying square with everything. And then ink it up. And press it into place. See how easy that is? And they're all perfectly lined up. Now, you've hit the edge of your thing here, so you don't have these squares to count, but now you can start counting this side. So now we can just still take this off, and we can still move it over 1, 2, 3, which is going to put me right here. And we can use the other side of the card to line everything up. It takes a little bit of time, but in my mind, it comes out so pretty that it's worth the effort. Oh, and that one didn't ink as well as I'd like, so I'm going to go back and touch it up. That's better. I guess I should get out of sync here. Okay, 3 more spaces. 1, 2, 3. Looks good. And away we go. See how that's coming out? Isn't that just so fun? I don't use the Stamparatus a lot, but I'll tell you, when you want to use it, it is so handy to be able to do repeat images like this. And one more. 1, 2, 3. Make sure it's straight. It needs to come over just a little bit. I'm being super picky. I can put one down there. And last one. And there is there's the border. Isn't that pretty? Now I'm going to stamp these. This image here that you see is going to go up in the 2 corners. I can't ink with the lid. Now you could do this with the Stamparatus as well. Sometimes it's really handy to use it because then if you don't get a good clear image stamped, you can go back and repeat it like I did on that one flower that I was doing there. So there's a place for it, you know, and I just don't pull it out often enough. So I thought it would be fun to pull it out and share it with you today. Share using it in one way I do it. Okay, and there's my 2 images. Now everything's all just outlined. So now we need to color. And I'm not going to color all of them because you can see the finished product, but I used Evening Evergreen and Daffodil Delight and a blender pen. This is like old school. I mean, these are still available in the catalog and I still use them. But since we've gotten the alcohol inks, that's my clock. Try to just ignore that. It'll be done in a moment. These used to be what I primarily used for coloring, because you can color lightly and then go back and add depth and shading and all of that using these pens. Like I say, it's kind of old school for some people, but I still have a use for them. I didn't, because this is supposed to be a simple card and I didn't want to create layers and everything. I stamped directly onto the card front. And so because of that, I don't want to use the alcohol pens because they bleed through the cardstock. And so then I would have all this bleeding through on the inside of my card. Now you could do that and cover it up with another piece of cardstock if you wanted to, but I didn't want to do that. So I'm going to use my blender pens. And the Evening Evergreen, as I said, is going to be for the leaves. And I bring in a piece of scrap paper because I take and I get the ink on there, but I want the lighter color first. So I'll kind of touch it off and then I will start coloring. And it's still pretty dark. I think I'd like to try and get it a little bit lighter. And so it's just a matter of not getting too much ink. And of course, the more you use it, the lighter the colors will get as you go along in color. And then you can come back. And so really it's a matter of taste of what you'd like your color to look like. And you can just brush off until you get to the shade you want and then color for a while. And then you touch it to the pad and get some more and do it all over again. And so that's kind of what I'm doing here. We'll do just one, and then so you can kind of see how it's done. And so this particular video today, even though it's simple stamping and it's just pens, just stamps, paper and ink, I'm using the ink in a little bit different way, so it's not just stamping on a picture and it's done. You've got a color. And you can see how the color is getting lighter as I go along. And so this is how you do it. Just like that. Isn't that cute? Now these came out a little bit lighter, so then I could come back and just tap that on the darkness and I could add some shading if I wanted to. I can add some shading here. So these pens end up working out really, really nice. And so that's the basic idea of that. Then when you're done with your pen, with your blender pen, if you just kind of brush it on kind of at an angle like that until it starts to come out fairly clear, then it's ready to use for a different color. It may stain, but it will not carry over to the next ink pad. So then let's do just a little bit of a flower so you can see that. And for, like I say, for this I used the Daffodil Delight, and I only needed the one color. I'm going to switch ends on my pen, and I only needed the one color because I'm going to go on fairly light. Yeah, that's good. Like I say, you could bring in another color if you wanted to. So like that, and then I'm going to come back with the darker, and it almost looks orange against it, which is what I want. And I'm just kind of dabbing it this time. And I'm using the marks that are on the stamp to kind of give me some idea where to put that. And there's my flower. And so here's the finished product. And then I also added Wink of Stella to my flowers and gave them just a little bit of a shimmer. Don't know if you can see that. And then for the sentiment, it came from this set. It's that one I read to you earlier. And it fits perfectly between everything here. Oop. Inked that instead of the sentiment. That was smart. Okay. Nothing wrong with me that a good night's sleep wouldn't fix. Okay, and then this just went right in the center like that. And that created that simple stamping card. Isn't that lovely? I'll finish coloring that later. You don't need to watch me color everything. Just kind of need to see how I put the card together. Now, because this is a simple stamping day, this kind of went quickly. So I have a bonus card for you today using the same set. And find my bonus card. This is the bonus card that we're going to do today. So let me show you how I made that. I took the 2 dies. Let me show you. This die, which cuts out this. If you use this die, it will cut out the pattern out of the card front and stay there. And then if you use this die, you can put it on here and line it up, and it will cut it out so it's a separate piece like this. I'm only going to use this, and I'm going to create a stencil. I've gotten really into this, using stencils, making stencils with my dies. So I just cut that design out of a card, and out of a piece of cardstock, I should say. I've attached this sticky note to it because this end was so narrow, I knew I wouldn't stay in the lines. So that's just on there to keep me from getting ink where I don't want it. And this piece is 4 1/4 inches wide. And so I don't have to worry about the side to side. All I have to do is decide how far up or down I want it. And I'm going to bring it down. And you can tell by the top of your card, you can bring it down however far you want. I'm thinking right about there. Might not be exactly as the sample, but it'll be close. And it's still basically a simple card. Once you make the stencil, it does become a simple card. Okay, so that's on the card front. And then I'm going to use a blender brush. And I'm going to use the Evening Evergreen ink again. But I'm going to keep it kind of light. Another way you could line this up, if you had this cut out of a larger piece so you'd know you didn't get the edges, you could cut this out of the middle of a 7-inch by 7-inch piece or whatever you wanted, so that it would go onto the card without having to worry. You could ink it without worrying about getting off the edges. And the way you would line it up, because if it's right in the middle of a big square, you wouldn't know where to line it up. Let me get my one I was playing with. So like this is a 6 by 6, I think, or 5 by 6 square. And you go, okay, where is it on the card? I can't really tell because the rest of the outline hides the card. So I took the center that comes out of this, and I found the middle, and I punched a tiny hole in the center. And then I put this where I wanted it with a, you could hold it in place with removable adhesive if you wanted to, but I'm going to say, I think I'd like it to be about like that. And then you could, that would help you find center. And if you didn't want the center to be inked, you could leave that in there and you add the ink over the top, and it would keep the center clean as well. I wanted my center to be inked, so I'm not going to do that. Okay, so that's just another option that you can play with. And so again, I'm just going to line it up, and I think I'm going to come down to about there. And I'm going to stick it on. That sticky note comes in handy because it's holding this in place. Again, I need my scrap paper. I'm going to put that under here like this in case I go off the edges. Okay, and here we go. And I always start off to the side and then move in because then you don't get those heavy brush marks. You can start, and I want that in there too. And I want the outside a little bit darker. And then the inside just a little bit lighter. And then you can lift it up. Oh, I think that's perfect. All right. And we'll leave that open because we're going to use it. Set that aside. And there's that beautiful stenciled design on the front. And then I use the sentiment. And I'm going to get one of my wipes here. And I'm going to clean it up just a little bit before I use it on my green because it's got black on it. I'll get that cleaned off. And we will stamp the sentiment in the middle. And there's the bonus card. Yay! So there's my 2 Simply Stamping cards today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned a new tip or technique. You know, you could step these up in a number of ways. You could add some ribbon or whatever, but I was trying to keep them as simple as I could, and I hope you enjoyed them. Let me know what you think. And I appreciate you stopping by. If you don't have a demonstrator or aren't a demonstrator yourself, please link to my online store in the description box below. There's also a link to my blog there as well, where I'll post current specials, sales, and other information that comes from Stampin' Up. So again, thanks for stopping by.